Bruce, big announcement with the Miracle Mile dates and the carnival, the 3-week carnival.
That's right, yes, Greg. The board met this afternoon. We've been having a lot of discussions over the past 2 months about the carnival, and in particular about the potential clashes of dates with the Victorian Carnival, and also just about the congestion of the feature race calendar at that stage. And this has obviously come about because of the move from the traditional November spot through to the Inter-Dominion place that we've held for the last 3 years. So the club's had a desire to keep that Group 1 day going on that what ends up being the last Sunday in February this coming year. But so we wanted to make sure we kept that Group 1 calendar going, and we've added the Miracle Mile to that, of course. So what that's meant is shuffling around of a lot of dates, and the problem Victoria's had is the location of the Ballarat Cup, which has been squeezed out by the Inter-Dominion over in Perth at the end of this year. So that's sort of added into the mix and caused even more congestion to the calendar. And we've been sort of working closely with HRV over the past couple of months, trying to sort of come up with a good scenario for everybody. But to this point, we just haven't been able to sort of get the right mix. So it's made it very difficult for the club, because we have a lot of organising, of course, to do with a carnival of this size. And we decided earlier this week that we really just needed to sit down and make a firm decision and stick to that decision, and hopefully things will fall into place around that. So that's what's occurred today. We've decided that the qualifying for the Miracle Mile will be held on the 13th of February. There'll be 3 races for the qualifying. That'll be the 2 sprints. One of those will be the Cordina Sprint, possibly the Coca-Cola Sprint. Coca-Cola, we're looking at moving across to the Derby this year, but we may hold with Coke. And also the Chariots of Fire is the 3rd race for the qualifier. So what that means is that there'll be a week gap, and then where the barrier draw will take place, and also the qualifiers for the Oaks and Derby, and then of course the actual Miracle Mile on Group 1 day on the Sunday the 28th of Feb.
Few issues. Firstly, why can you not move back and give a little bit more room to the Victorians? Why is it so important that you run on that last Sunday in February in 2016?
Yeah, that's a good question, Greg, and one we've certainly been asked a few times through this process. And it's around the NRL schedule. Actually, is the main reason for that. The NRL starts the following weekend, so that obviously puts a lot of pressure on coverage, etc. Part of the real feature of the Inter-Dominion Carnival was having the Channel 9 coverage of that day, and that's something that we're very keen to proceed with again this year. So in order for that to happen, we need to be on that weekend, and we would be very pushed to get any coverage at all in the Sydney press, particularly with the NRL starting that sort of following week. So we feel it's very important that we don't push any further back than that weekend.
And to give them a 2-week gap, that no option. Well, there is an option to race on the 20th. I've always been a big one that Cordina Sprint the week before the Miracle Mile is too hard on the horses, and you can have a look at the performance of horses that come through the Cordina. They don't back up and perform well in the Miracle Mile. Yeah,
I know there was a lot of talk about this last year with Suave Stewie, and the Triton connection there really didn't want to sort of run that week, and felt that it sort of didn't give him a chance in the Miracle Mile itself by doing that. So
smoking up the year before too.
It comes up every year. You're right. So I mean, traditionally, of course, there was only the one sprint, the Cordina, and it was the week before. However, the feedback we've had, I know Dave Watson, our racing manager, has said for a long time that the feedback he gets year after year is they don't want to run that week between. So this way we feel we're giving everybody an even chance. All horses that are going to contest the Miracle Mile will be going around on the 13th. The first 2 from the 2 sprints will go through. The winner of the Chariots will go through. That's of course if they take that invitation, and then the rest of the field will be made up from those 3 races. So you could take a second horse out of the Chariots if you felt that there was a horse of that standard there. However, most likely they'll come from the 2 sprints.
What do you think the reaction from the Victorians is going to be? They've said that they wanted to run their 2 featured nights on the 6th and the 13th of February. So obviously, if they go ahead with that, we're going to have a massive clash.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, as I said before, things will fall into place. I mean, myself and John Anderson have been sort of working sort of very hard on this, and we have a very good relationship with the Victorians, so we're hoping sort of that things sort of will work out. Obviously a clash like that would be pointless for both states. I mean, we don't want to be splitting horses. I mean, there's at this stage probably a bit of an issue with depth of that level of horse to start with. So we certainly want to make sure we have the best from all states here racing in Sydney, and I'm sure the Victorians have the same belief for their carnival as well. They want to have the best horses there for theirs as well. So I do hope that sort of we'll be able to sort of sort something out with the Victorians so we avoid such a clash. I mean, last year their two features were on the 30th of January and that first week of Feb, so we're hoping they'll move back to that sort of position and keep those two major races, that last week of January and first week of Feb, which would leave the 13th free for this qualifying night for the Miracle Mile.
$200,000 qualifiers, Chariots of Fire's $200,000, so the three $200,000 races on the 13th. $750,000 Miracle Mile, but you guys do want to push it to $1 million.
Yeah, that's something that we are working on. We're sort of talking with Harness Racing New South Wales at the moment on that, and the club's looking at the funding themselves. It may not be achievable this coming year, but it's certainly something that we're looking to for the future. I mean, if it doesn't happen this year, I'd certainly like to see it happen the following year to have the Miracle Mile itself for $1 million.
So as far as the principal club is concerned, those dates are locked in. There will be no moving from those dates.
Well, we think that's the way we have to go. As I say, this has been going for a couple of months now, and given where we are, I mean, we're in June now, so we really need to start sort of planning and making sure that we have everything in place. Things like we have to have conversations with Destinations New South Wales, Channel 9, and other media organisations. So we feel that we need to lock those dates in and get stuck into sort of organising it.